sales service and rental depot based in Fort McMurray. Colin Livingston joins us once again. And man, there's lots to discuss. Colin, let's start with NASCAR. And the trucks were racing at the legendary Dirt Oval Knoxville Raceway. Now, I'll be honest, I don't watch the trucks at all. But I watched part of it. I'm like, this seems ridiculous. Like there's too many trucks on a small and nothing. And then it was pandemonium. Like there's a crash every 50 feet in restarts for the last 10 laps. Like, is that normal, or were they just trying out that short track because it didn't seem to work?
Well, I mean, I've made my opinion on NASCAR trying to move to dirt, fairly well known, but I don't understand what the end goal is for NASCAR to do this stuff. These trucks, whether it's the trucks, the Xfinity cars, the Sprint Cup cars, or the big Cup cars, they're not built to do anything but run on asphalt. And now, they slap these dirt tires on and they try and convert them I just don't understand what the goal is, because if people are interested in dirt racing, they're going to watch purpose-built cars, late model sprint cars that are designed to do this, trying to put 30 plus cars on these tracks, and unfortunately Knoxville, the way that it was set up, they got a bunch of weather, a bunch of rain leading up to the event, so they had the track prepped really well, but it's as you saw from the highlights there, it turned into a single groove track, so the trucks weren't able to run side by side. They were in the beginning until the lower groove came in, and from then people are just fighting to get to the bottom. And then when there's only one groove, the only way to pass is to knock people out of the way. So when you get stuck on the outside, you have to try and force your way down. You got to knock people out of the way. Then they get stuck on the high side. Then they got it. It was just an absolute disaster. Sheldon Creed, not really shy with his opinions. He's one of the better drivers in the truck series. Put it best when he said, "We don't belong here." Iowa Speedway is just down the highway. We could be racing there. I just don't understand. Like, if NASCAR is trying to appeal to dirt racers, to try and get more of those guys watching, what NASCAR does, they're doing it the wrong way. And, I just don't see what the end goal is for this.
Kurt Busch won in Atlanta, so he punches his ticket to the playoffs of NASCAR. And the silly season in NASCAR begins. Keselowski looks like he's out. And Austin Cindric, who is the reigning Xfinity champ, is going to take over for Penske. Keselowski, you have it saying, is probably going to go to racing. All these changes, do you find historically, does it make that much of a difference at the end of it?
When drivers switch teams?
Yeah, like the teams suddenly have that much more success the next year?
This is a tough one. Like in the example of Keselowski, he hasn't really had a bad season. He's been winning since he won his championship with Penske. A hell of a good driver. He's going to be very, very highly sought after. The move to make Cindric, one of Penske's Cup drivers, makes a lot of sense. His dad, Tim, is the general manager of Penske Racing. So it's easy to look at nepotism there, but I mean, Austin is an incredible driver. I mean, he got his opportunity by being related, but he's been kicking maximum backside since joining those guys. The move that they announced with the Wood brothers, Matt DiBenedetto, Matty D, as most of us will say, because it's just a lot easier. He's leaving the Penske affiliate team of the Wood brothers, so that Harrison Burton can take over that car next year, which is kind of a strange move because Matty D is a really highly accomplished driver. He's always been one of those drivers that's in lower grade equipment than the top guys, but he's performed really well. Harrison Burton, he's got lineage. His dad is Jeff Burton, former NASCAR champ, now broadcasting for NBC. I'm not really sure what the appeal is. I mean, Penske doesn't make moves for the sake of making moves. So they obviously see something in Burton. Either he's got a good sponsor package that's going to come to the team, or they just see something in him that they think he's going to be successful. And then that's going to open up a whole lot of other moves, like again, the rumors that Keselowski is going to be taking over at Roush for Ryan Newman, which means that either Newman's going to retire or he has to find somewhere to go. Matty D needs to find somewhere to go, and when these guys take over somebody's ride, that means there's another driver that's going to move. So I think things are going to be pretty tumultuous here for the next couple of weeks.
I had a question. Joaquin Gage here talking to you. I'm at the embryo stages of an F1 fan here. I got caught up in the Netflix series with a lot of people here. This weekend at Silverstone, they're implementing the new sprint qualifying. And with my research, looking at the tires, and they're unveiling the new car. What can you actually explain to some of our listeners that are probably not unlike me with their F1 knowledge, what actually entails in this sprint qualifying?
Well, I mean, I know about as much as everyone else. It's going to be interesting to watch. So what's going to change, like typically a Formula One weekend has 3 practice sessions. FP1, FP2 makes sense. They run qualifying, then they run a third practice session before the race. Pardon me. It doesn't matter what they do. It's basically 3 practice sessions, time qualifying, and then they run the race. What they're doing this weekend on a trial basis, they have 1 practice session of an hour, then a 3-session qualifier, typical, but it's going to be on Friday instead of Saturday. And the idea is that they're going to try and create a little bit more importance to every day on the track in an attempt to get more people in the stands. Then Saturday, they're going to run the sprint qualifying, which is going to be 17 laps. So basically the way you qualify on Friday determines the starting order for Saturday. The finishing order on Saturday is going to determine the starting order on Sunday. I want to reserve my judgment until I see how it goes. I'm honestly not overly optimistic that this is going to do an awful lot to shake things up or to make things more interesting. But I could entirely be wrong. If nothing else, it's giving more people, more stuff to talk about, and hopefully we get a few more eyes on the screens this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, just because I don't believe there's any pit stops. Is there regulations of what type of, because I know when in the second qualifying, the tires that you finish with in Q2, you have to start the race with. So what type of tires do they have to use in the sprint qualifying? Because it's going to be a quick 17 lap race.
Yeah. So what I think they're doing is in FP1, you're open to what tires you can use. And it's expected that teams will use 1 set of hards just to kind of baseline their setup. And then they'll probably go to a set of softs. It sounds like for the, for qualifying, you can pick anything you want. I think they're mandated. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they're going to run softs during the sprint qualifier, and then whatever you have left over for the main race. They're taking 1 set of tires away from the teams this weekend, but they're compromising with another set. I can't remember how it all breaks down though.
Yeah, I think that's what I kind of researched and thought they were going on the soft. And I think they're unveiling the F1 cars for 2022 next year. Do you know of some of why they did this and they're making some changes? From my limited research, to make the races a little bit better and more competitive. But can you just touch on some of the things that they're changing to the cars for next year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously the 2 things that they're trying to accomplish is they've drastically reduced budgets, where some of these teams were spending upwards of $500 million a year. Next year, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I want to say it's around $145 million is the maximum team budget. But yeah, I mean, the couple of key things to look at. they want to make racing better on track. And the current generation cars, they produce so much downforce, but they do it by aerodynamic elements like the front wing, the under tray, and the rear wing of the cars. They're trying to move the car's downforce from being wing dependent to more ground effect, where the cars are, instead of being pushed to the ground with aerodynamics, they're going to be sucked to the ground, which maybe sounds like the same thing, but it's completely different. Because right now, when one car tries to follow another car, they lose all that aerodynamic, and all that downforce. They're not able to maintain their grip level behind another car because there's just not enough air. What the hope is that this is going to make things better, but the wheels are going to be different. They're a larger wheel, and they're going to be a lower profile tire, which is going to minimize the amount of overheat if cars are slipping. It's going to have less roll than the existing cars, so they're going to be able to design a little bit easier around there. The front wing, rear wing are completely redesigned. You're going to see winglets come around the front wheels. You're going to see wheel covers for the first time in like 12, 13 years. They're moving towards more sustainable fuel, which, they're in about 5%, biofuel right now. They're going to try and get to 10% next year, and, a bunch of other little things. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully if everything hits the way it's supposed to, the truly great drivers are going to be able to excel, more than the other, the less accomplished drivers, where it's not going to be so much in the car's control. It's going to be more in the driver's control.
Right, which should make it more interesting. There's no question about it. I saw some of the pictures you sent out about the differences in the car. So my question is, because I'm watching season 3 right now in F1, because I know a lot of people are, like, let's be honest, right? They're watching it. And, there was a big controversy that Stroll's team basically copied the Mercedes, which obviously now is really not going to be an impact as much of a factor. And then number 2, Colin, how are they going to enforce that teams aren't going over budget? How can they ensure that you're only spending $140 million?
I can't answer that. I know that these guys are so good at catching the other teams breaking the rules that they're going to be able, like, they have to account for every penny. And right now, like the discussion in F1 is whether or not Red Bull is compromising their 2022 car development by spending all their resources this year, chasing this year's championship. There is a really strict cost cap right now in F1 that obviously gets more restrictive next year. They have to account for every pencil, everything that they do, right down to all the salaries of everyone. That's all built in. It's going to be interesting. The thing that every team has is they're going to push the boundaries, and they're going to try and find ways around all of these established rules, because that's what we do in racing. But they also have to account for it, and the cost and the penalty for breaking some of these rules, I know, is going to be very extreme. So if you go over budget, you're going to be in a really bad position.
Well, one last thing. I don't know if you listen to my podcast, but I've developed a kind of a reputation of being a little bit of a degenerate gambler. Just for the Constructors Championships and the overall champion. If I could ask you the question on who I should put my maybe a little bit of dough on, do you think Lewis Hamilton can come back and win this thing from Max, or is the Red Bull car and Max just too much for Mercedes this year?
I would never encourage someone to bet against Lewis Hamilton. But this weekend is actually going to be the catalyst, because, Silverstone is really a Mercedes dominated, owned, controlled track. Not that they physically own it, but they've had ultimate success there the last 7 years. Red Bull is definitely starting to run away with this championship. If Mercedes, with their upgrades that they're going to be trying this weekend, can close the gap and can put a bit more pressure back on Red Bull, then it might be open. But I think right now, just based on the way that the that new regulation with the balance of the cars has really worked to Red Bull's favor, it's going to be really tough for Mercedes to come back. But that's the fun part, is we just never know.
Looks Looks like I'm drinking Red Bull. All right.
All right. Colin, thanks for this, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
You bet, boys. Thanks a lot.
That's the